You know you've been in Toastmasters a long time if you can remember Phil's icebreaker speech.
During the Ice Age. That's where the term came from.
Phil Brady will be giving a speech today using visual aids on the topic of health care in his personal experience with the Affordable Care Act. The time is 7 to 9 minutes. The title of his speech is My Experience with the Affordable Care Act. Please help me welcome Phil Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and guests.
Good morning.
The year was 2010. The housing market was in free fall. As a real estate agent, I don't get paid unless I sell a house. There was no money coming in. When we got the second notice that we had missed a house payment, 2 payments actually, my wife just freaked out. So we started cutting things back. Wise or unwise, we cut a number of things. We had a lot of oatmeal, cut out cable TV, and at one point we decided it was the house or it was health insurance. We rolled the dice and we canceled our Blue Cross policy. That was 2010. Over the next couple of years, I'm working diligently trying to make a living. Not really paying attention to what's going on TV, what's going on in the news. The Tea Party was railing, conservatives were griping, and liberals were saying that national health insurance, universal health care, whatever you want to call it, would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I was busy and wasn't paying much attention to it. But I want to tell you this morning about my experience with the Affordable Care Act. So let's look at the numbers. I've gone old school with this. So I've come up with this chart here. It has the year down this side. The total monthly cost of health insurance. My monthly cost of health insurance. The monthly tax credit is what the government provides. I don't know if you're familiar with the Affordable Care Act or if you're on in the marketplace. And then the annual policy cost. So in 2013, I called my buddy over at Blue Cross Blue Shield and I said, Steve, we don't have health insurance. We canceled it a few years ago. If I wanted to get it, what would it cost? And he said, well, Phil, it's gone up. It will be $550 a month. And that was my cost. There was no Affordable Care Act yet. So the total cost for a year was $6,600. We're still digging out, trying to make a living, so we elected not to have health insurance in 2013. The Affordable Care Act came into play late 2013, 2014, and I had until the end of March of 2014 to get health insurance, to comply with federal law, and be in the good graces of the government. So I called Steve back in 2014, and I said, Steve, we have to comply with federal law. So what's it going to cost me? And he said, well, Phil, it's gone up. He said, it'll be $1,350 a month. Now your cost will only be $513 a month. The government is going to pay $838 a month to help you make that. Now as a conservative, the first thing out of my mouth was, Steve, why in the world would they want to help me pay my health insurance? And he said, well, Phil, they're covering everybody. Anybody that wants health insurance, pre-existing conditions or not, they're going to cover it. So the insurance companies are going to have to charge more for health insurance in order to pay all these medical bills. So they're willing to help you out as long as you don't make over a certain amount of income. And I said, Steve, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I mean, I have to take it because I can't afford it on my own, but that's just crazy. So we went through 2014, getting this, they call it the advanced premium tax credit. They help pay your bill every month for a total of $16,213 is what the total cost of my health insurance was in 2014. 2015 rolled around. Once again, I signed up for it. And the cost went up to $1,563 a month. I had to pay my wife and I paid $725 a month. The government subsidy, the advanced premium tax credit, was $838. The total cost of health insurance for my wife and I was $18,760. So it went up because they realized they didn't have enough money to pay all the medical bills, so they increased it. 2016 was my favorite year to talk about. The total cost of health insurance was $1,984. 1984. How George Orwellian of the federal government to charge me $1,984 a month. I paid $775. The government kicked in $1,209 for a total of $23,816. There's a couple of things special about 2016. There was a clerical error in the fall of 2015. And I didn't realize until February that I was paying $1,984, not $775. So for the first 3 months of the year, I paid $1,984 a month until they straightened it out. So by the end of the year, I had paid a good bit of this $23,000. But we had health insurance. Thank God we didn't need it. Or we didn't use it. 2017 rolled around. In late 2016, I signed up again. The monthly cost was $2,650 a month. My part was $810, and the government was going to pay $1,840 for an annual $32,800. I didn't make that much in 2007, and yet that's what they were going to charge me for health care. So I signed up. I mean, I have to comply with the law. I signed up. Signed up in November. Felt bad about it all through November, and on December 31st, went online and canceled this policy. I had found something that was going to work much better for me. I decided I would rather be outside of this and live on my own and make my own decisions than be under this thumb of having to do this. I looked around trying to find something, a cheaper policy. I couldn't find one. But I did find something that was interesting. I found something that's not health insurance, but it's an insurance alternative. The E-Fellow, but it's called MediShare. Anybody heard of MediShare?
Yep.
It has a bunch of names, but it is not health insurance. You could call it crowdfunding. You could call it Christian health sharing. But it's based on Christian principles, and it's what the Apostle Paul challenged the early Christians to do when he said, bear one another's burdens. So people pay into this program, and if they need health insurance, it's catastrophic health care. If they exceed their deductible, and ours is $7,500 apiece, then they would draw money from this fund. It cost us $542 a month. There is no monthly, nobody adding to that, and the total bill for the year is $6,504. We kick in a little more because there are people with pre-existing conditions we want to help. I'll speak about MediShare in another speech and talk about it. It's set up for Christians, but there's a program for the Muslims. Are very good about doing this as a community, helping one another with their medical bills, bearing one another's burdens. But it struck me that of all the things I could do, to comply with this law, this was one of the cheapest ones. This program here, MediShare, is actually exempt from the Affordable Care Act. If you're on that program, you won't pay a penalty for being on it. So what have I learned from this experience? I learned in my zeal to stay within the good graces of the federal government by complying with the Affordable Care Act. I cost myself a lot of aggravation and a lot of money. In fairness to them, however, I wouldn't have found MediShare if I hadn't gone through this myself. When they first came out talking about the Affordable Care Act, I was so sure that the Supreme Court would strike it down that I didn't really worry about it and think about it a lot. Perhaps your experience with the Affordable Care Act was more positive. If so, I would love to hear about it. As I often say, there's a speech in that. So I'm calling on you to consider giving a speech on the Affordable Care Act if you've had a positive experience or somebody else has had a positive experience. You've heard my tale of woe, my griping, and I would love you to pour sweetness in my bitter cup. Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay, please write a note for Phil. Can I have the timer's report, please?
Yes, sir. Speaker 1, Mr. Larry Epps, titled Challenges of the Second Youth, 8 to 10 minutes. Larry qualified at 9:25.